You can't launch from here, the man barked, one hand gripping a laminated HOA badge and the other resting on the hood of my truck. I stared at him half in disbelief, half in pure rage, because the trailer was already backed halfway down the ramp and my boat was 20 feet from water. My weekend trip? Dead in the water. Literally. Move your hand, I said calmly, trying to keep the blood pressure where the doctor likes it. I'm authorized to stop unauthorized use of HOA resources, he snapped, puffing his chest like a parking lot peacock. Let me back up for 1 second. I bought this property because it came with deeded access to a private boat ramp. The community was lakefront, sure, but the house I chose was across the street, still legally granted ramp access. The realtor showed me the documents twice. I signed, paid full price, paid extra for that boat ramp. But no one told me about Rick Parsons. Rick is the self-proclaimed Waterway Security Director for the Willow Shores HOA, which I later learned was a title he invented himself. Not elected, not recognized, not even acknowledged by the rest of the board. But that didn't stop Rick from wearing a navy blue vest with HOA enforcement stenciled on the back, and strapping a walkie-talkie to his belt like he was monitoring maritime drug traffickers. He wasn't alone either. Behind him stood 2 other guys, mid-50s, identical khaki shirts, sunglasses on despite the cloud cover. They looked like retired mall cops who took up HOA politics because no one else would return their calls. You're not on the list, Rick said, waving a clipboard. I glanced down at it. Half the names were written in pencil, and mine wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. This is my deeded access, I said. I have legal right to launch here. You need a sticker, he replied. I blinked. What sticker? Ramp access sticker. Only issued to waterfront homeowners. That's not in the CCRs, I replied, pointing at my glove box where the rules sat printed and highlighted. Rick smiled. It's in the supplemental addendum. Which one? He hesitated. The most recent. That's when I realized this wasn't going to be a simple back and forth. This was war. I towed my boat back up the ramp, tires squealing on wet concrete, and parked just outside the clubhouse lot, where I walked into the HOA office with fire in my veins and legal clarity in my back pocket. Inside sat Deborah, the HOA secretary, older woman, probably harmless if she weren't enabling HOA tyranny with every keystroke. I asked for a copy of the supplemental addendum. She hesitated. I believe those are internal documents. I pulled out my phone. Under state HOA transparency laws, I have a right to view and request copies of all governing documents. Unless you'd like me to file a public record complaint. She sighed and printed it. The addendum was 3 pages long and read like it had been typed by someone watching reruns of Judge Judy, full of vague rules, contradictions, and bold underlines. The most important part? It wasn't dated, wasn't signed by the board, and most importantly, wasn't filed with the county like all valid CCR amendments must be, meaning it was toilet paper with a header. I showed Deborah my deed, clearly listing waterfront recreation rights including ramp and dock use, and asked when that changed. She didn't answer, just handed me a business card and said, "You'll need to speak with our HOA president." That's when I met Carol Snyder. Carol wore power pantsuits and carried herself like a substitute teacher with something to prove. She didn't greet me. She asked if I had an appointment. "No," I said, "but I've got time." She motioned to a chair and told me she'd give me 5 minutes. I gave her 3, and left with a copy of the HOA's email archive. Not because she wanted to, but because I reminded her that HOA emails are public under state law if they pertain to policy decisions. And in those emails, I found something that made my jaw clench. They weren't just blocking my ramp access, they were planning to privatize the entire lakefront. And my little weekend fishing trip? That was just collateral damage. By the time I read through the HOA emails that night, I'd forgotten all about fishing. This wasn't about the boat ramp anymore. It was about control. Buried in those emails were threads between Rick, Carol, and 2 board members titled Shoreline Initiative, Phase 1. They'd been working on it quietly for months. The idea? To restrict lakefront access only to homes that physically touched water. Everyone else, even those with deeded rights like me, would lose access unless they opted into a new fee-based privilege program. Translation: pay up, or shut up. They even had a rollout plan. New rules slipped into the summer bulletin, staged community input meetings with pre-planned outcomes, and retroactive enforcement once people were too confused or busy to fight back. And Rick? He was their golden retriever. Aggressive, loyal, not too bright, and always eager to bark at anything that moved. I wasn't about to be part of their experiment. The next morning, I started with a county records request. It took one phone call to confirm no amendments had been filed regarding shoreline use or common area access, which meant all their new rules had the legal weight of a Facebook comment. But they didn't stop there. 2 days later, I got a violation notice taped to my door. Unauthorized use of private launch. Fine, $500. I laughed. Then I called my attorney, Melissa Owens. Sharp, fast, and mildly terrifying in court. She reviewed the documents I sent, including the supplemental addendum, and said, "This is garbage. You could paper your bathroom with this, and no one would notice." Still, we agreed not to file anything yet. I wanted leverage. HOA boards are like hornets. You don't swat until you've got the spray and a clear path to the door. So I waited, collected. I started talking to neighbors. Turns out I wasn't the only one on Rick's list. A single mom down the street got fined for unauthorized paddleboard storage when her kids left theirs on the dock for an hour. An older couple was told their rowboat violated visual harmony standards because it wasn't beige. They were mad, but most were scared. Nobody wanted to poke the bear. Rick made sure of that. People told me stories of golf cart patrols at night, mailbox warnings, even trash cans being tagged for irregular bin spacing. This HOA ran like a small-town dictatorship wrapped in American flag bunting. But they made one mistake. They messed with the lake, and that lake belonged to the county, which meant I had allies. I called the County Department of Environmental Resources. After explaining the situation, the guy on the line got real quiet and asked me to send everything I had. Apparently the HOA had been applying for a seasonal fishing permit for the past 5 years, a blanket license that allowed residents to fish from the shore and community dock without individual licenses. It was a nice perk, one of the reasons people moved here. But that permit, it had to be renewed every year, and renewal required compliance, proper signage, public access, no unauthorized restrictions. Spoiler alert, blocking residents from the lake because of a made-up sticker rule. Not compliant. 2 days later I got a call back. "We're suspending the HOA's permit pending further review," the official said. "Until we finish investigating, no fishing activities can be conducted under their group license." Translation: no fishing season. That little sticker war Rick started, it had just cost the entire neighborhood one of its favorite summer privileges. Word spread fast. By the weekend, the dock was deserted. Families who'd planned their Father's Day fishing trip were left standing with tackle boxes and no legal right to cast a line. Rick tried to bluff his way through, claiming it was a temporary hiccup. But when the county posted the official notice on the clubhouse bulletin board, things got ugly. A group of residents cornered Carol during the next HOA meeting, demanding answers. She blamed me, of course, called me disruptive, said I was spreading misinformation. That's when I handed out printed copies of the permit suspension letter, and watched the room turn on her. I hadn't even gotten started yet. This wasn't payback. This was foundation work. And the next part of the plan, I was about to aim a spotlight straight into their fishing fund. Because while they were busy guarding docks and dreaming up fake fines, I was digging into where the HOA dues were actually going. And what I found would blow the whole thing wide open. The first red flag was a $14,000 line item labeled aquatic beautification. I'd been reviewing HOA budget reports for 3 nights straight, cross-referencing every invoice, every payment, and every fake-sounding line item on their annual summaries. My dining table looked like a crime scene. Paper stacks, sticky notes, 2 highlighters, bleeding their souls onto every page. Aquatic beautification. That was supposed to mean weed trimming, shoreline cleanup, maybe a new layer of gravel around the community dock. But I'd seen the lake. Weeds were everywhere. The only beautification happening was the reflection of Carol Snyder's ego every time she strutted past in her HOA visor. So where was the money going? That's when I found the name Silver Wave Environmental Solutions. Sounds legit, right? Except Silver Wave wasn't listed in the county's vendor directory. It had no website, no phone number, and according to the Secretary of State's business registry, it didn't exist. Not under that name. I widened the search and finally found it buried under an LLC registered in the next county over, a landscaping company owned by Mark Snyder, Carol's brother. Bingo. Now I had embezzlement. HOA funds funneling into a ghost contractor owned by the president's own family member. No competitive bids, no disclosure, no work completed. And the best part? They'd been doing it for years, over $60,000 in beautification payouts over a 36-month period. And the lake still looked like a mosquito breeding ground. I packaged everything. Payment records, business registration, before and after photos of the lake, which were identical by the way, and sent it all to my attorney Melissa. Her response? A single word: leverage. While we prepared to file a complaint with the state HOA regulatory division, I took it a step further. I contacted a local journalist, someone who had written about shady homeowner associations before. I didn't give him names, just the documents. Let the paper trail speak for itself. And speak it did. Meanwhile, the HOA tried to regain control. Rick doubled his patrols. He started writing tickets for anything he could get his hands on. Suspicious dock presence, improper trailer parking, and my favorite, vessel loitering. I didn't even know boats could loiter. One morning I caught him photographing my boat from the bushes behind my fence. I stepped outside with a cup of coffee and waved. Need a better angle? I asked. He scurried off like a raccoon caught stealing dog food. But the pressure was building. The day the article dropped, it was like someone flipped a switch. The headline? HOA's fishing permit revoked. Where did the money go? The article laid it all out. Permit suspension, shady contractor ties, misuse of dues, and the mysterious beautification budget that never beautified anything. They included quotes from residents, anonymous, but clearly pissed. By 5 p.m., someone had taped a copy of the article to the clubhouse doors. By 6, a group of angry homeowners showed up demanding a full financial review. Carol didn't answer the door, but Rick did. He told them to submit their complaints in writing, then tried to record the crowd with a GoPro strapped to his chest. Someone, bless them, threw a slice of cheese at it. That night, Carol sent out a community-wide email titled "Fighting Misinformation." It was 4 paragraphs of nonsense. She claimed the article was biased, the numbers were taken out of context, and the fishing permit would be reinstated soon thanks to ongoing negotiations with county officials. She included a quote that said, "Our community stands united." Within minutes, someone replied, "I'll check your front yard, Carol. We're not standing with you, we're standing outside." And they were. Neighbors gathered again, this time with signs. "Where's the money, Carol? We want our lake back." "Rick, get a job." I didn't even organize it. I just watched from my porch. But I wasn't done. While they were busy fending off the crowd, Melissa filed our official legal demand for access restoration under deeded rights. The HOA had 10 days to comply, or face a court order and legal review of every financial record from the past 5 years. They didn't know it yet, but their little shoreline monopoly was about to collapse like a folding chair in a hurricane. The notice went up on a Thursday morning, taped to the clubhouse doors, folded into mailboxes, and emailed to every resident. A single sentence in bold black font: due to pending litigation and ongoing investigation, all HOA-controlled lakefront access is suspended effective immediately. No ramp, no dock, no fishing, no excuses. The lake was officially shut down by their own board. And me? I was just sipping coffee on my deck, watching Rick try to untangle a no trespassing sign from a gust of wind. I'd warned them, I gave them chances, but they kept pushing, so I pushed back with the one thing they underestimated: documentation. While the neighborhood buzzed, the HOA board scrambled. Carol tried calling an emergency meeting, but only 2 people showed up. One of them was Rick, and the other just wanted to return a lost cat. The rest of the board had ghosted, probably reading the same subpoena notice I had. Yep, it happened. After Melissa filed our motion for injunctive relief, the county clerk fast-tracked our hearing. We walked in with receipts. The HOA came in with excuses. Carol wore a beige blazer and brought a 3-inch binder labeled HOA Authority Manual. The judge glanced at it once and asked her a single question. "Where in your recorded CCRs does it state you can deny ramp access to deeded properties?" She blinked. Then she flipped. Then she stammered something about supplemental rules and board discretion. Melissa calmly slid our copy of the original property plat across the table, highlighted with the phrase "full recreational access to common waterfront areas." The judge barely looked at it before saying, "That's legally binding. Your denial was unlawful." Just like that, I won. Legally, officially, completely. The ramp was mine to use. No sticker, no surveillance, no clipboard patrol required. But that was just the appetizer. The real punch came from the county's financial review triggered by our lawsuit. Turns out, Silver Wave Environmental had not only been cashing checks, it had been billing for equipment rentals that didn't exist, submitting fake invoices, and claiming maintenance hours on days the lake was closed due to weather. The audit hit hard. Over $74,000 in beautification fees had been funneled into that sham company. When Carol was asked to explain it at the next city council hearing, she didn't even show. Instead, she submitted a letter calling the entire investigation an organized personal vendetta driven by one disgruntled boat owner. I framed that letter. It's in my garage, next to the mounted bass I caught the week the dock reopened. Because that's what happened next. The dock did reopen. The fishing permit, gone for the season, but individual residents could now apply for their own licenses. No group access required. The HOA, disbanded. Well, technically suspended indefinitely, which in legal terms is code for we quit before we get sued worse. Rick vanished. Word is he tried to join a private security company, but failed the background check because he listed community enforcer under previous experience. Carol sold her house 3 weeks later. The for sale sign had a smiley face on it. I added a post-it that said lakefront access included. Ask your lawyer first. That summer the lake was peaceful again. No golf carts, no clipboards, no one measuring my trailer angle with a laser level. People actually waved to each other. We started hosting Sunday cookouts by the ramp. A neighbor brought his old pontoon. Someone else donated a few rods and folding chairs. A little girl caught her first bluegill and held it up like it was a trophy. I grilled hot dogs, watched the sun drop behind the trees. Then right as I was packing up, an older man approached. Are you the guy who fought the HOA? I nodded. He smiled, slow and wide. You did us all a favor. We used to love this lake. Then they made us scared of it. Not anymore. That stuck with me. Because this wasn't just about a ramp. It wasn't just about a boat, or a permit, or one power-hungry board. It was about standing up when the rules get rewritten in secret. When silence gets mistaken for consent. When someone thinks they can run your community like it's their personal fiefdom. Not on my watch. Now every time I back my boat down the ramp, I don't just see water. I see every fine they wrote, every threat they made, every neighbor they tried to silence. And I remember they tried to shut down my weekend. So I shut down their entire season.